Yes. Recording also started. Welcome, Paniel. It's a pleasure for us to host you as the Süleyman Demirel University Artificial Intelligence Application and Research Center. We are just starting to do webinar series called as Minds of AI. We'll be hosting the international and national well-known, valuable and important researchers here who are also, of course, enrolled in the AI research. So, as the number one, I'm hosting my friend, Dr. Paniel Reyes Cardenas from Mexico. And he's affiliated with the Oblate School of Theology in USA and University of Sheffield from UK. And the title of the speech will be Parallelism between Psychopathy and AI. I'm wondering what you will be talking about because I'm also very interested in the philosophy of AI safety, and lots of things you know already about the societal and the psychological and also philosophical aspects in terms of the AI technology. I'm sure that you will be all giving us too much important knowledge. I remember your past keynote speech. I enjoyed them too much, so it will be a great pleasure for us to be hosting you here, and I'm very happy to watch and also see your presentation, of course. Okay, I'm talking too much actually, so
no, please carry on.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, also, you can make a brief introduction, of course, about you. You can talk about anything here. Our participants can read and also follow from the web. It's a very valuable thing. I'm always happy to follow you, and also I'm enjoying lots of things you are sharing and the literature you are publishing. You are sharing lots of things over social media, especially. So because you talk better about yourself, you can also stress the most important things in terms of your research and maybe your hobbies or other things, of course. So I'm just wanting you to share your all the information and knowledge about this, okay? So I'm also allowing you to share your screen, so you can make a start, dear doctor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Utku. It's really a great honor for me to be the first speaker of this webinar series, which seems like a very exciting and contemporary relevant topic. And I know I feel very humble because you are a great scholar in these issues. I know you're an authority, so it's with humility that I come and try to
You too, please.
say
Thanks so much.
a few ideas, but obviously you can always correct me because you are my expert reference.
Thank you. Thanks so much. You too. Thanks so much.
So I'm gonna speak about Yapay, if I
Yapay
remember.
Zeka. Yes, that's correct. Thank you. You remember. Great.
From our yeah, we had a beautiful conference in Antalya that Professor
Yes.
organized, so really lovely memories. So yes, but it's impressive that this conference was 2019, if I remember correctly.
Yes, for sure. It's just
And
6 years.
6 years, and in 6 years,
Yeah,
so many things have changed in terms of the landscape of artificial intelligence.
for
So
sure.
the challenges are cropping up as we speak. So I think it's important to, like what you're doing now, is stopping for a second and thinking about what we're doing with artificial intelligence and how is it developing, how is it integrating to other human activities in order to obviously make it make it a powerful tool for the human betterment as opposed to an uncontrolled force of technology, right? So, in order to talk a little bit about this, I think I wanted to give you a well, we could say a slightly controversial sounding title in order for us to think about the ramifications of some decisions that we could make in
It's very
work.
catchy. Yeah,
Very catchy, isn't it? Because
for sure.
I'm obviously not saying that AI is psychopathy, but there are some interesting things that we could consider from this. So more specifically today, I'll show you the presentation now. I am it's not letting me screen this too. There you go. Oh, sorry, it's not letting me. It says I don't have permission from my own system. So let me see.
And you're using Mac probably.
Yes, I am. I am.
I sometimes stuck in this.
Let me see. Hopefully now. In the meantime, I'd like to say a little bit about myself, not much really, just saying that my name is Paniel Reyes Cardenas. I'm sorry.
It seems visible now in my sites, actually.
Yes,
I mean,
but it says
presentations.
that
Yeah.
Zoom is not allowed to record, so I'm gonna just allow it to record now.
No.
Sorry about that. I should have checked that before.
No, no problem.
Okay, looks like it's working now.
Yeah.
Is it working now? You're seeing it?
Yeah. It's all visible for everybody, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, my name is Paniel Reyes Cardenas. I have a PhD in philosophy. I have been professor of philosophy for a few years in Mexico, but now I have moved to the United States, to San Antonio, Texas, where I am a student and a lecturer in the Oblate School of Theology. But I am also affiliated to the University of Sheffield, which is my alma mater in the UK. Okay, so I'm a bit eclectic. People who know me know that I do a number of different things, but I am interested in the intersection of philosophy, spirituality, theology, and obviously science. So I kind of habitate at the intersection of these worlds, and hoping to find creative synthesis that help the betterment of human beings. As a philosopher, that's part of my goal. But also as a student of theology, I also am interested in this ethical, practical dimension of what we do with what we learn. So this research, this in particular, has been done in collaboration with my good friend, Mariana Oleza from Buenos Aires. She is present here in the audience. So I thank her for getting up. Well, it's not as early. She's saying hello.
Hello.
Hola.
Hi, welcome, Mariana. It's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
for us to have you here in the session. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Mariana. And it's just it's been a wonderful opportunity to collaborate together. Mariana is a very capable, brilliant young student of PhD in philosophy and artificial intelligence, and she and I share in common the work on an American scholar called Charles Sanders Peirce, which I have dedicated a number of years since I did my PhD in philosophy, and I have published a number of monographs and numerous articles on Peirce's relevance. Peirce is a 19th century thinker, and we will talk a little bit about him. And his philosophy will help us to understand a little bit how large language models connect with the study of psychopathy through the study of creativity. because it has been, particularly the issue of hallucinations is a pervasive problem in contemporary large language models. We, Mariana and I, have tried to have an understanding of what actually is happening here. It's interesting because it's a little bit of a paradox. It's a bit as though if we were saying we want AI to be creative, but sometimes AI, as opposed to creativity, what shows is something similar to human psychopathy, and we wonder why. We wonder what's happening. And it's our belief of Mariana and I that this is not only, the creativity is not only given in some parameters and commands that we can input into a large language model. It's something that goes to the very core of human thinking, human inference, and something that cannot be fully reproduced because it's a unique human function. I will try to defend that in what follows, but also because we need, if we wanted to use AI in a more integrative way, we probably need to think about human thinking first, right? And as we have said in other occasions, I do remember I shared this in the Antalya conference. We use very freely the word intelligence in the language of computer science and the language of large language systems. But of course, we have to step out for a minute and think about what we understand by intelligence in order to understand what we do with these concepts. So, with no more ado, I'll go on to present you a summary of what we're going to understand here. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about this 19th century thinker called Chassander Peirce, a little bit about what he calls normative sciences, then large language models, and we will try and understand a little bit about what happens with large language models, hallucinations, or what has been called as hallucinations. The parameters that unleash these issues with hallucinations. Then we're going to move on to understand a little bit about human influence and the process of creativity through something that Peirce calls musement. Then we're going to understand how logic and aesthetics are connected in Peirce's normative sciences and ethics as well, in order to see if we can enrich our understanding of, and our creation of large language models in order to make it a little bit more palatable and connected in a more cohesive way with the human intelligence, and make it more, make it easier to emulate and respect ethical parameters of truth. And because of this, we will consider the issue of veracity, and which sometimes in current debates, veracity seems to be opposed to creativity. And we will try to track down where does this opposition apparently comes from, try to diagnose where it came from, and then give a proposal of creativity that that will be actually, I think, will simplify our problems with hallucinations in AI if we make it a little bit more based in an enriched conception and more philosophically powerful conception of human creativity. So that's the plan for today. Hopefully, I will do it in the right amount of time. But of course, I want to not speak for too long because I want to give opportunity for questions after the talk. Chassander Peirce proposes that he presents. He was I will speak a little bit about him, but he was a fascinating polymath of the 19th century, and Peirce did a number of interesting revolutions in philosophy and in knowledge in general. He was a very capable mathematician, a very capable scientist, a very capable chemist. He created as we will say later on, semiotics, which is a rigorous science of science. And amongst the things that he did, he was trying to he was the father of pragmatism, which pragmatism is a philosophical tradition that emphasizes in knowledge understood not as a product but as an activity. So beliefs are not only concepts information that we hold in our minds, but is habits of action, habits of expectation, habits of even habits of thought that are expressed always in actions and practical consequences. So this important revolution in philosophy had a consequence that if we accept what Peirce called the pragmatic maxim, then a body of beliefs will follow from that. And one of the things that follow from his pragmatic philosophy was what he called the normative sciences, which is a new elaboration, a new architectonic of how to classify science, but not based in the products of the different scientific endeavors in inquiry, but the activities that we do as we do science. And because of this, Peirce thought that it was very important to have an orientation of these activities in a normative way, which means that we'll give it order to this inquiry to make it more self-controlled. And in order to do that, he proposed that there are three normative sciences. These are logics, ethics, and aesthetics. So let's say a little bit about this. To reduce Charles Sanders Peirce's thought to logic, which is obviously sometimes his contribution has been reduced to logic, is to overlook the pillar of his philosophical system. We think that in his architectonics of knowledge, Peirce does not classify the sciences only by their objects of study, but by the operations of the mind that guide investigation, research, inquiry. In this structure, he surprisingly places the normative science, aesthetics, ethics, and logic as the foundation of all intellectual activity. For Peirce, then, aesthetics is not a secondary but science, but the fundamental normative science. It deals with what is admirable in itself. From it derives ethics, which guides conduct according to that ideal, and logic, which is subordinate to ethics as a social duty oriented towards truth. Thus, the search for truth is a form of admirable action that pursues an unconditionally valuable end, the growth of concrete rationality. This is what he called the summum bonum, which in Latin means the highest good. That is the development of intelligent and self-controlled habits that deepen the understanding of reality. Well, okay, sorry for that long introduction to Peirce's normative sciences, but what I want to make clear from the very beginning is that Peirce's pragmatist philosophy doesn't see aesthetics as separated from ethics, as separated from logic. They are all part of a normative system of sciences that will help us to flourish as human beings. And this flourishment, human flourishment, we want to have normative standards that are correctly integrated to make our activities follow the highest ideals possible. So let me put it in easy words. Logic is this commandment to follow the truth, right? We want to practice valid inferences because we want to reach truth. Then ethics, but who tells us that we should follow truth and not falsity or not lies, for example? Ethics tells us that because ethics tells us that we should do what is good in itself. But how can we recognize the good? Well, aesthetics teaches us to recognize the admirable that is admirable not in function of something else, but admirable in itself. So if we want to appreciate what is good, we need to have a capacity of appreciate things. So in this way, the three sciences are linked to each other and subordinated to each other. Logic is subordinated to ethics, and ethics is subordinated to aesthetics. So this is really good news for people who are interested in aesthetic creativity, because they feel they will feel validated that their capacity to create beautiful things or meaningful things, it's a key element of the human development, and it's not a secondary hobby, but it's something central for human beings. Okay, so Charles and Spears, very briefly, 1839 to 1914, was an American polymath, a philosopher, logician, and scientist, often called, for example, Bertrand Russell, another important 20th century philosopher, says of Peirce, the most versatile mind that America has ever produced. And some people used to call him the American Aristotle, because he did so many things in so many different areas. Even for the history of computer science, the relationship of Peirce with Babbage and others has been a key element of some key developments in the history of computer science. He is the foundational figure of modern semiotics and pragmatism. So some core contributions of Peirce, as I said before, pragmatism is this philosophy that defined meaning not as a static mirror of reality, but as the practical consequences of a conception, which is expressed in a principle called the pragmatic maxim. Secondly, semiotics, the science of signs, is another of his key contributions, developed a complex theory of how meaning is created through the relationship of a triadic relationship, three things: a sign, an object, and its interpretant. This is also relevant for artificial intelligence in the way that because artificial intelligence as of today is large language models. But if we want to excel in the understanding of these large language models and their development in a self-controlled way, we need to understand language itself. And semiotics will give us a key to understand language, not in a traditional sense, but with a more powerful kind of understanding of how meaning is articulated. And finally, another key contribution of Peirce is abduction, is abductive reasoning, which has also been known as the inference of the best explanation, is the primary engine of scientific discovery, alongside other forms of inference such as deduction and induction. So Peirce understood that human thinking works as a form of inference, different forms of inference, and these forms of inference are articulated to each other. They overlap, obviously, but we can distinguish three of them. And the philosophical tradition normally only presents two of them, which is deduction and induction. But this is slightly insufficient. And for the logic of creativity, which is something that concerns us with AI, the understanding of abduction will help us to understand in which way we can empower artificial intelligence to be more creative in this non-restricted sense. Okay, well, now let's say a little bit about how large language models work. And obviously in this, my friend and colleague Mariana will know better, but let's try to understand the mechanism that produces what we call hallucinations in AI. Okay, so large language models, LLMs, and let's introduce two concepts: tokens and hallucinations. In 2017, Baswani and others published this paper, "Attention is All You Need," and they say something like this: the model presented in this article introduced a mechanism called self-attention, which is a form of selecting for the language model system to select tokens, and therefore tokenization emerges, which is like a recurrent activity in the functioning of artificial intelligence, which consists of dividing symbols like universe, for example, into different kinds of slices or tokens, right? So they can be processed as large language models items. So, for example, different kinds of tokens will give us different qualifications of what kind of symbols we are using. And obviously, the AI can play with them in different ways. Now, but in the tokenization of languages and the production of sentences of the English language, of any other language, at least Western languages more than Eastern languages, and I'm thinking that perhaps the Chinese language, for example, or the Japanese language, they might slightly function in different ways, but nonetheless, they produce large language models that are based on the Western conception of language, which is basically what Aristotle said since the 5th century before Christ. How is a sentence formed? A subject, a verb, which is an action, and a predicate, something that is being said. So this structure, subject, object, and predicate is normally the basic conception of language that is at play in the tokenization. But then in the production of sentences, obviously, as we know, AI produces what we call hallucinations, often generate responses that are factually or fidelity-wise incorrect, despite their success in various applications, and they're doing so with high confidence. Given that the information provided by these systems can directly influence decision-making, any misleading data has the potential to spread false beliefs and even cause harms. We talk about veracity and not creativity, for example. And this is, there's a lot of recent examples of these, but I find a very amusing one, a very funny one that I found in a meme the other day. There was this man using ChatGPT. I don't know if I can mention different kinds of models, but I'm more familiar with Gemini. Is the one that I play with and meddle with. But this meme was a man who was in the forest using ChatGPT, and he was saying, asking, is this sending a photo to the large language model of a mushroom, and he said, is this mushroom edible? And then the AI responded that yes, this all kind of mushrooms, obviously with a hallucination, because he didn't have the information, but wanted to give an affirmative answer to make the user feel good. So he ate the mushrooms and poisoned himself. It was a poisonous mushroom, and then he was like, "You gave me false information. I'm dying." It's like, "Oh, you're dying. Let me give you some comfortable ways of thinking about death." Okay, so it's funny, but it's funny because it's true. Sometimes this false information is potentially harmful, and hallucinations, of course, in academic work are terrible because you think the AI shows you a quotation from somebody that sounds like a genuine researcher, and it gives you a false quotation from a made-up book that doesn't exist or something like that. So this is, and it sounds very cohesive and it sounds relevant for what you are saying, and we see this in our students today, that and we know they use AI for their final essays. So of course this gives us some idea of what's happening nowadays, and the risk of this. There's many problems with this. Obviously, one of the key problems is that false information is harmful in many ways. But secondly, if we think this could create in us as users and as human beings the illusion that being creative means to lie, and that's not true. Being creative doesn't mean to lie. Being creative doesn't mean to made up stuff, even though it's interesting, or for something to be interesting has to be false. So this dichotomy that we could create in our minds is potentially very dangerous, and it will come if we don't stop to think what's happening. So that's part of the reason why we did this kind of research. And Jasper's, sorry, and let's go very briefly through the tokenization process, which has been in contemporary language, and Professor Utku, would you correct me if I use one of these concepts in a wrong way? But the idea is that these hyperparameters that are like core directives of programs can give us some tuning of the AI, and let's say that this tuning has been called the temperature. So if we want the large language model to be very free in associating different sentences, then we give it some kind of temperature or tuning based on what is called creativity in this context. Or if we want to make it purely logical and very rigorous, then we reduce that temperature of creativity, as it were, in order to emphasize veracity, right? Emphasize like deductive calculation. So this, like I said, this has been the way that large language models have been functioning nowadays. So the temperature and the top K hyperparameters are configured by the supervisor of the user of the prompt, which is us, as we program these models. On the one hand, the T temperature hyperparameter, a T tending to infinite, result in more random responses, while T closer to 0 will result in more deterministic responses. Given that a T close to 0 distributes the logits, the real values produced by the final layer of a classification model before applying an activation function like softmax, for example, an output layer, to nearby points, tending towards a more deterministic and reliable, which is a veracious discourse, and as T tends towards infinity, it disperses them widely. So it's more or less how we allow the model to play and associate freely the different sentences, but without the references to a strict observation of following a standard of truth. On the other hand, top K is responsible for distributing probabilities among the next K tokens. If set to 1, for example, the probability of choosing the most likely token will be total, next token 100% probability. But by selecting, for example, K 500, the probabilities are distributed among the next 500 tokens, making the system more random and more, in some ways, creative, like free association kind of thing. But I have a little bit of concern with this understanding of creativity, because in this sense, creativity will be letting the model to be very free to associate many things in a free way, and the result of that will be a system that tries to, well, doesn't have a high standard of confirmation or rigorous confirmation with reality, but it plays with the sentences and creates things. But this creativity is not what I call creativity. This free association is not exactly creativity. Let's criticize the mistaken idea that creativity is just a product of free association. Because, for example, let's think of an artist. Is an artist just a person that associates freely things? No, he needs the mastery. He needs some goal. He needs some goal-oriented activity. And that's why we call a creative process a beautiful process, because it has a normative standard of beauty. So this Peirce defines the process of creativity with the idea of musement. Describing in his essay A Neglected Argument for the Reality of God, musement is a form of pure play, a state of free contemplation without a predetermined goal. So in a way, yes, there's some parallelism, for example, between free association, pure play, and pure play, but it's not exactly the same, because this act is not direct reasoning, but an aesthetic appreciation. There is an aesthetic standard, a normative standard, which is not present in the free association of ideas and their patterns are the light in contemplation itself. This play is for Peirce the cradle of creativity and the engine of scientific discovery. So musement is the mental state that nourishes abduction, the only type of influence capable of generating genuinely new hypotheses. Applying this concept to large language models, we can conjecture that by adjusting the hyperparameters towards greater creativity, let's say free association, to emulate pure play, this will result in a high T and top K levels. We are attempting to simulate a form of artificial musement. We force the model to abandon the most probable logical route. The result, often a metaphorical or tangential hallucination, emulates the wandering of the human mind, from which occasionally a novel and valuable connection can emerge. This Persian framework offers a revealing perspective for analyzing the fundamental tension in large language models between veracity and creativity. What we are trying to say here, and I will be very brief with this, because I know my time is running out, is to say creativity is not pure association. It's association, pure play with ideas, but that has a normative standard of the admirable. And because of that, the artist, what the artist has to create in order to be beautiful, has to be true and has to be good. And this is what Plato, for example, understood as the key characteristics of being. For something to be true, has to be beautiful and good. And the medieval philosophers called the transcendentals of being, because the normative aspects of appreciation, all the three come together. So so obviously this implies a number of ethical aspects. Creativity and veracity are not opposed, because if we have ethics in the middle, we can understand that appreciation of the admirable has to come with truth. So we have a proposal to how to develop the language systems bearing this in mind, and not necessarily relying on there's a number of examples that we propose here. I'm going to skip these slides, because basically what I want to do is just to present this main conclusion, and I'll give you some. This is, for example, using Peirce's semiotics to understand the process a little better. But what we want to do is to understand that creativity is a form of self-control inquiry. Even though it implies pure play, it doesn't mean it lacks self-control. because human inference is actually inquiry, which is what we do through inferences, is a self-control activity of a mind that thinks what it's doing. So self-control, we want to debunk this myth that thinks that creativity doesn't have to do anything with truth. And what we want to do is to say creativity is a process of discovering a deeper aspect of truth, which is the admirable in itself. So in a way, if we want to feed better parameters to large language models, we need to overcome, we need to be better at not thinking dualistically between veracity and creativity. We need to rethink how we're doing this. Obviously, we have a number of humble proposals, but the risk of not doing so is the following, and that's why I was talking in the title about psychopathy. The risk of forgetting about how beauty, the good, the ethical, and the logical, truthful aspects of reality are all intrinsically connected in a normative way for our inquiry. The risk of forgetting that is making emulating creativity processes of AI, large language models, as if they were a deranged person that doesn't have control over their thoughts. So as opposed to instilling into the language model creativity, what we're doing instead is reflecting how a person that has no control for their mind thinks. And in that way, the hallucinations might be more akin to psychopathy than the products of art, on the other hand. So we want creativity not as psychopathy, which is the lack of control over our thinking, but we want creativity as a form of amusement, as a form of appreciating the good. But that cannot be separated from the good and the truthful. So because of this, we conclude that just as the focus in the scientific and technical field is currently on mitigating and controlling the hallucinations produced by large language models, more and more voices are beginning to be raised in the academic sphere, proposing a deeper reflection on the possible link between the phenomenon of hallucination and the creativity of these systems, just to rethink how we think about creativity. So the conclusions. We see that there is an opposition between veracity and creativity in the models, increasing and decreasing the hyperparameters. Amusement is an alternative view of this. It's a form of pure play, a state that consists of allowing the mind to wander freely through the three categories of experience. This act is not direct reasoning, but aesthetic appreciation of ideas and their patterns, as the light in contemplation itself, which is a self-control activity, basically. So this it emulates an artificial amusement. Is not pure idle play. It's just not free association. What we want is to refine our understanding of how the large language models create. And if we want to do that in a better way and more controlled way, we need to think of those parameters in terms of the normative standard of sciences. So some references there, and teşekkür ederim. We still have a little time
Thank you
for
so
questions.
much. Yeah. Bir teşekkür ederiz. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your very valuable presentation, dear Dr. Paniel, and this great speech that we all understood about how can I say that all the hyperparameter optimization and their links with the that hallucination, and how we should or we can observe that from the philosophical manner. So it's a very nice touch about that, how we would understand from the human view, human perspective in terms of a philosophical manner, of course. So there are many things to connect with the technical aspects, actually, as you know. So I'd like to ask about what do you think about I don't know if there's anybody, dear participants, you can write your questions in the chat section, by the way. So as I'm talking, I want to ask the first question at this point. What do you think about the technical aspects? You know that it's somehow a blurred thing that it's all going beyond of our minds. There are lots of things ongoing in the technical side. There are lots of the billions of parameters, the many things, the layers are all the chaos is happening over there. So it's not very easy to interpret even the working mechanisms of an AI model at this point. So, what do you think about the technical aspects? Do you think that this problem in terms of the black box technical aspects, I mean, for the current models may cause something like that the AI of the future would develop many important philosophical aspects to support our findings, our human, our perspective, and to change them. I mean, to transform us as we are producing something from a philosophical manner. Maybe it should be something like connected with the human intellectual the sides. But what do you think? Would it be transformed into something synthetic, developed by the future of AI models? Will we change, or will our philosophical background will change in the future? What do you think about this when we think about these technical things going beyond of our mind? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Well, yes, we are certainly. I mean, it's fascinating to see that how patterns emerge, even in the chaotic association sometimes, which is something that has even helps us to make the wild hypothesis that there is rationality is not only something that humans have, it's something that exists outside ourselves, because it's a pattern of that emerges in nature and emerges even in simulations of nature, which is an interesting thing, I suppose. But like you said, we sometimes have this impression that is the technical nitty-gritty aspects of the large language model systems seem to mirror this kind of unconscious mind of the human being sometimes, right? And like
Yes.
psychopathy sometimes has to do with very deep aspects of our minds that we don't understand very well. For example, I am thinking about, for example, somebody who suffers a form of schizophrenia, for example, in the
Yeah.
of art, for example. There's numerous examples of people who had very wild creative moments while having psychotic episodes. And one can think, could it be that, AI, if we let AI run itself in the ways, just feed it more power to compute and associate ideas, but and see what creates. I think that's interesting in itself, but it could be a little bit like this black box view of the mind, that a human being doesn't become more creative if you just feed it more information, feed him or her. A human being becomes more creative in as much as this person has a capacity to create something that is admirable for others. And in this sense, it's not a black box in the sense that is something strange happens and then we produce. It's habits of thinking, habits of action. However, we don't know how they work perfectly. So there's a hidden aspect to ourselves, of our own minds, of course, all the time. And it's very fascinating, right? Like, for example, when sometimes we have many options to solve problems, but we let our imaginations find ways to picture them. Normally, we come across the right way of thinking things. I'm thinking about the chemist, for example. Just to give you an example, the chemist of the 20th century, Kekulé, who discovered the aromatic molecular form of carbon, which is like the hexagonal form of carbon. He discovered that by having a dream of somebody flying a kite, or for example, I'm thinking of Mendeleev, for example, who classified the chemical elements according to atomic number, and these processes are not obviously evident. There's a black box moment over there. Obviously, I completely agree with you, and in some sense, sometimes AI exhibits that, but it's not exactly the same, because what we need to fit in the AI parameters is not yet there, I think, which is an appreciation for the normative standards. Which we haven't done so far, I feel, and the problem with the great competition between large language models between the big companies is that they just think which one processes things more quickly and more information at a time, but they don't think who processes this information in the best way, right? Because
Yes,
they have
for
a
sure.
very linear conception of thinking, and
Yeah.
so that the progress is just in quantity but not in quality. And I agree with you that we need to rethink how the technical mirrors our philosophical dimension.
Yes,
And
for sure. Yeah.
I think we have to kind of stop the race to make it more fast and more powerful, to make it more qualitatively valuable, right?
Yes, yes, you are right. So that's maybe the easiest thing is that the evaluating the things with the numbers. That it's just a simple thing to reflect something about, or something about the success from a how can I say, from a very direct evaluation view. But there should be more things related to the quality and the depthness about that maybe AI and human collaboration or interaction.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's
Make
very
it
important
more
thing.
organic. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, connections maybe. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe
because
the yeah,
I think right
yeah,
now it's not very organic. It's just
yeah,
us asking for things and the AI kind of using resources, but it's not organic in the sense that we
yes, yes, you are right.
use it
Maybe,
as the tool that it could be.
yeah, for sure. Maybe you know that there are the things in terms of the brain computer interface BCI, or the other things happening around, how can I say, the blending of the digital and the organic things. I don't know, maybe in the future we'll be talking more about something like belonging to cybernetics. I don't know, maybe a mixture of the biological and the digital things. So our perspectives may be shaped better in the future, but it's another story about the developments of the AI, combining it with the biological things. I don't know. It looks like something like a science fiction, but the things are happening. So let's
Yeah.
see how we will think about such things when they happen in the
Yes,
future.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think this number of ethical concerns that will
Yes.
emerge as to how to integrate this in the best way possible. Because so far, I think it's a bit invasive, really.
For
You know,
sure.
like
Yeah.
yeah, for example, Neuralink. This idea is like is not making the technology help your life, but is adapting your life to the technology.
To technology. Yeah. Maybe some.
We inverting the, how they say, the horses for the cart. Right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah, for sure. You're right. Maybe it's that should be something to keep a balance between these two components.
Exactly. So I think we shouldn't forget that technology is there to serve us as human beings, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of questions on the chat.
Yeah. You already saw them. Yeah. If you have time, I think there are two more questions from the audience. Do you have time? I'm asking.
Yeah.
them directly.
If people don't mind staying for a little bit longer, I am happy to.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Enes asked that would you think the intellectual level of human will be enough to lower the capabilities of AI and preventing it from something harmful in physical and abstract manner? I think from physical and intellectual manner. I think, yeah.
Yes, I think part of what we were saying is that the products, well, the normative standards of human minds should be relevant for helping AI to be more adaptable to the human environment, as opposed to, I mean, large language models are not only models about piling up more and more information, but also piling up information in a way that helps the goals of humanity, right? So we have to find a way to create parameters that also respect those normative standards of our lives, which is basically the three things we said: be truthful, be fine, choose what is good, and prefer the admirable, right? So yes, I agree with the sense of the question is that it will help to be less harmful. Yes.
Yeah. If we can use it responsibly, yeah.
Exactly. Responsibly, and organically, and
for sure.
It could simplify our lives as opposed to complicate them.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing I feel that and just a quick example, the overpopulation of AI images that we're experimenting in social media, it feels like it could be, that people are doing creative things with AI, but unfortunately, the scope of that creativity, these images are kind of all very similar to each other. They don't have this element of human freedom that sometimes you need in the appreciation of the admirable. So I think it's a good example of are we getting really more creative, or we're stifling and paralyzing our creativity by depending too much on those images, right?
Yes, for sure. Okay. Thanks so much for the answer.
There's one more question.
Yeah, it seems looks like the things summit. Yeah, as I've always talked about balancing something, so it looks like he is asking about something related to this thing. He also says that it's perfect speech. Yes, and he asked that should AI be under control or transparent for balancing human mind and AI computation in philosophical view. He means, yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you for the question and for the kind comment as well. Yes, I think basically when we talk about controlling AI, what I mean is not restricting AI, What I mean is trying to have more control in the sense of, in the same sense that we say, like, when we control our minds, we can do more things with them. It's a control that gives freedom, right? It's like Aristotle used to say, virtue is the habit that makes you more free and more in control. For example, if I exercise being generous every day, I'm more freely as a disposition and more generous. And the same with tools like AI. I think large language models can, if we're more in control of their parameters, they could be more helpful for us to do more things. Yeah, it's not stifling. It's not. The idea here is not that we're gonna restrict. It's about controlling more to make it more ample and usable for many more human activities without substituting our creativities or without letting it stifling our creativity, because creativity is I mean, in order for us to feed the language model with the right parameters, we have to appreciate them first as human beings. So if I'm not a person that doesn't appreciate the beautiful, doesn't appreciate the good, and doesn't appreciate truth, then what I feed to the large language models reflects my lack of deep thinking about reality, right? So in a way, what I'm trying to vouch for is, I mean, we don't have to be philosophers as in the sense that we have to study philosophy, but we do have to make our lives a little bit more philosophical if we want to be better at creating these models.
Yes. It's just something about, again, collaboration between AI and human. Yeah. So we need to help in training such models. Yeah. For a better feature. So it's all about the human responsibility again.
Yes, exactly. I feel like in one way or another, we always have to. Oh, sorry.
No, we hear it. Yeah.
I lost my window for a second.
No, it's okay.
Yes. I agree. It's about, I mean, as long as we set right our goals, we are human beings that appreciate the right things, then we will be more successful in making a more models that help us more making AI a more powerful tool for us as humans to achieve our goals. And I mean goals in every sense. Like, for example, if I'm a scientist and I want the AI to be better at helping me with research, or if I am an artist and I want to enhance some aspects of my work, or if I am a person who wants to thrive in life, for example, I mean, I don't have a bad opinion or a negative opinion about people who, for example, use AI to bounce their ethical decisions, because they use the standards.
Yes.
You know, like, it's like talking to somebody who has some clear standards. Yes,
For sure.
So the issue is who puts those standards there, right? Or mental health, for example. AI cannot substitute therapy because AI is still way on the is exhibiting more our human flaws in some aspects that that exhibiting better parameters of what a healthy human mind should feel be lived like. So in a way, I don't think people should. I mean, I know people use it sometimes to complement therapy, which I don't. I'm not against that, but it wouldn't substitute it, because it's not. The model doesn't have the parameters of the ultimately flourishing human mind. So in that sense,
Yes. Yes, you are right. I agree with you. Yeah. By the way, Mariana also would like to add something. Yes, Mariana.
Yes, thank you. Excellent presentation, Paniel. I would like
It's
to
Mariana's
complement.
work mostly.
I would like to complement that large language models have, for example, two traits. One of them is mimics mimicking emotional expressions, which they do not possess actually. They act like as if they have emotions, but in fact they lack of it. So that is another trait of the psychopathy. And I think that could be improved through engineering if the designers were focused on not putting so much emotions on LLMs, for example. That is a trait that can be fixed, for example. But there is another trait that is related to hallucinations, which is syncopathy, which is in the alignment phase. Well, syncopathy is what Paniel was talking about this mushroom that this man ate, that because syncopathy
Yes.
happens when the LLM tries to adulate too much the users, compromising validity, right? So instead of giving a valid answer, it adulates the users way too much, and it can harm people, for example. But this is related to hallucinations, so it's more structural, because hallucinations cannot be eradicated at all. They can be mitigated. So on the one hand, we have this mimic of social emotions that can be fixed maybe, but on the other hand, we have these hallucinations which are more structural and cannot be completely eradicated. So those are our other two traits of LLMs that are compared to psychopathy, I think so.
Yes, you are right.
Thank you,
so
Mariana.
much. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you,
That's a
Paniel.
very valuable comment and addition to how to deal with the LLMs and how to keep a close contribution aspects from human side to the technical venue of the AI models. Yeah, thanks so much. Great.
Thank you.
So,
Paniel.
yeah, thanks so much for your participation also. I'd like to ask if there is anybody to ask anything to Dr. Paniel. Or I should say that as Dr. Paniel has a limited time, I kindly suggest you to send your questions to his email address. If you missed it from the presentation view, you can ask me so I can send it to you, of course. And of course, you can reach out to Paniel, Dr. Paniel, over the web by following his academic profiles, of course. Okay.
Thank
So
you very
thanks
much.
so much. Yeah. Thanks so much, Dr. Paniel. It was very mind-opening speech. So also it was a very valuable contribution for us, for our center, that it's the opening of that Minds of AI, that webinar series. So I'm looking forward to hearing you in the future, of course, again, because your speech, your topics are very catchy and valuable to understand everything from a philosophical manner. So thank you so much. So I'd like to also thank to all participants for spending their time, sharing their questions, ideas, and all the feedback for this session. As the center, I mean, I briefly called it as the AI ARC, but STU, Artificial Intelligence Application and Research Center, it's just starting and will be hosting many more international and national researchers to talk more about AI, everything belonging to AI. So you are welcome to join again in the upcoming sessions. Dr. Paniel and Mariana, of course, you are all welcome to watch us, follow us. I'd like to also thank to also Mariana for her great contributions and the support the Dr. Paniel's speech at this point. Okay. So do you have any feedback or any final words, Dr. Paniel?
Well,
so we
just
can make a finish.
just a final word of thanks for thinking of me, my dear friend Utku. Like I said, I have a lot of admiration for your work. So I feel very honored to be the first speaker of this seminar. Thank you for the invitation. It was an amazing, great audience as well. And hopefully, I wish you all the success for the webinar series. And let's be in touch, of course, and let's keep in touch
always
for more projects.
Yeah, thank you so much. By the way, I'd like to also remind that all the session will be on YouTube soon from the YouTube channel of the Academics TV of our Süleyman Demirel University. So you can also rewatch the session again. I'll be sharing it with you, Dr. Paniel, and with all the audience soon. Okay, so have a nice travel, Dr. Paniel. We'll be keeping in touch. Thank you again. Have a nice day. Thank you all.
And you. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.